see finish. Now, a lot of people might not understand see finish, but if you're in Nigeria, then you should be able to understand it. Basically, what see finish means is when there isn't so much more left to people's perception of you because you have revealed every angle and aspect of yourself, that there's no mystery anymore, and once that has happened, you opened up completely and wholeheartedly, and there's no respect anymore, and there's no curiosity, there's no mystery. People will begin to take advantage of you or not even respect you anymore. So that's my own definition of see finish. But whether see finish or not, one thing that we know is boundaries help with your self respect, and it helps you uphold your esteem, and just helps you remain your authentic self without other people impeding on that and making disrespect other people. There are people that that most times will not accept any form of disrespect. They will not take it. They'll be quick to nip it in the bud. Like once you want to start insulting them, hey, I don't want that. So they don't have a problem setting boundaries. But you see those people, they're very good at crossing other people's boundaries. And when you try to develop yourself and become a better version of yourself, and you begin to ask certain questions like, why is this the way it is? You begin to understand that not everybody in this world has a moral compass. Not everybody feels the need to respect other people. Not everybody's nice. If you are nice, not everybody is nice. Not everybody is respectful. So it will be very funny, and I'm saying funny with levity, like it will be very funny for you to expect to be clear within yourself, and you need to define what you would accept and what you won't accept, so that you don't end up being a leaf in the wind of this world, meaning that anywhere the wind blow, you blow along with it, or that anywhere people determine you should stay is where you stay at the moment, because then you end up literally not having an identity and being what the world says you are and you don't want to ever put that in anybody's hands. So that being said, I'll just dive straight into 5 ways to set boundaries in a healthy way. So are you ready? Let's go. So the first thing, which I think I already mentioned in my introductory speech, is defining your boundaries. And how can you even define your boundaries? First, knowing who you are, knowing your triggers, what makes you tick. And when you don't do that sometimes, because this has happened to me, when you don't understand yourself, you don't know your triggers, you don't know your own boundary, the boundary that you want other people not to cross, you don't know your own boundaries, you put yourself in a position to be disrespected and to be hurt, and for your boundary to be made ridicule, or for your boundaries to be ridiculed, basically. So you need to know what your boundaries are. You need to know why you do certain things. You need to know why that particular thing is a trigger for you and why it's not acceptable to you, so that if you even want to define that as a boundary, you'll be able to say, see, I don't want this. If you don't even want to explain to the person why, that's between you and the person. But there are certain people that you have a close relationship with, and you might need to tell them, because they're not doing this with any malicious intent, that okay, this is why I am putting up this boundary, because this it makes me feel this way, it makes me feel less than. But you won't be able to communicate that if you don't know it for yourself. So you have to know your boundaries, know your triggers. And if you don't even know your triggers, you find yourself overreacting, and you'll find yourself being the one at fault at the end of the day. Even though people do you wrong, you'll be at fault because you would overreact, or you will take it in for so long, and the day you explode, it will become such a big deal that nobody will understand where you're coming from, because it's like you never said anything all this while. We've been insulting you playfully, we've been telling you you're very mad, and we'll all laugh about it, and you will laugh and you won't complain. And today, out of nowhere, you're just like, I don't like it, don't you ever tell me, are you mad anymore? You did not communicate your boundary. And in that situation, you are the one at fault. So take the time to learn about yourself, know yourself, and then you can go ahead and then define the boundary. Now, after you've defined the boundary, we move to number two, is to communicate it. Because nobody has jazz. Some people do have jazz, I give them that, but most times people don't know what you're thinking, people don't know what you're feeling, people don't know where you've been, people don't know where you're going to, and they shouldn't. But you know. So when you finally define your boundaries, it's important to communicate it. And how you communicate these things also matter, because how you communicate it will determine how people receive it. If you don't communicate it well, people won't receive it well. And you might lose people who actually mean well, who actually care about you, and who would have taken your boundaries into consideration and even upheld them along with you if only you communicated it well. So my own advice to communicating well is not let it stew, because I think I've been guilty of that in the past, where I won't say anything, I'll be hurting inside, something will pain me, I will say anything. Then when I will react, I will overreact. And I have a tendency to go the extreme when I react. Not violent or anything, but like, because I hold things in, I will just explode. And it's not healthy, it's not good for me, and it's not good for people who actually care about me. So try to communicate early. That's the first thing. Try to communicate early. Try to be clear about the bush, because I don't want to hurt other people's feelings. I'm always like trying to be very considerate about other people's feelings, because I don't know if it's because I'm an emotional person, so I always try to consider other people's feelings until it's too up for such a long time, and then I can't hold it in anymore. So, but in trying to consider other people's feelings, one thing we must learn is not to abandon ourselves. In saying yes to other people, we shouldn't be saying no to ourselves, and that's something that I've had to work on. And yeah, I would not say that I've got it. I would say that I'm aware of it, and now I catch myself sometimes when I'm trying to protect you but you. And we're living in a very colorful but ugly world. A lot of people are hurt, and hurt people hurt people. And if you do not take the responsibility to protect yourself, people are going to hurt you. And one day you're just going to wake up and you won't recognize yourself anymore, because you've been trying to bend and shift and break yourself to fit into everybody's world. You're trying to make everybody happy. You're trying to be nice to everybody. Being nice is not a bad thing, but don't abandon yourself because you're trying to accommodate other people. And communicate your boundaries, because boundaries communicate to people that, you know what, you respect yourself, so now I'm going to respect you. Okay. So number 2, communicate. Now number 3, uphold your boundaries. What it means is, whatever you are asking for, that should be something you've already established within yourself. And I'm going to just use the example of, if your room is dirty and in shambles, and you tell somebody to come into your room and not litter, but there's litter all over your floor, you have that right to ask people to not litter your space, because it's your space. But a dirty environment naturally calls for dirt by itself. So like, if I'm walking along the streets, right, and I'm moving past a dump with lots of dirt on the floor, nylons, everything, and I'm holding dirt in my hand, it's easy for me to throw it, not because I don't have sense, but because that place looks like it was meant for dirt to be dumped on. So the best way to communicate is to actually live by those boundaries. Uphold your own. How can you even ask people to uphold your boundaries and you've not upheld it yourself? So learning to even uphold your own boundary is something, because some people did not even know that they needed to have boundaries, and when they finally realize, you know what, okay, this is a trigger for me and this is a boundary I have to uphold, it also takes time for you to get used to all of that. And that's why sometimes you have to give people grace, because it also takes time for people to actually adjust. Even people who actually respect your boundaries and are willing to adjust, it still takes time. just as you, like if you decide now today, I'm going to be a clean person, and you've probably been a slob all your life, you intend to be clean now. You someday you will still fall back into your slobby ways, and it's going to take time and consistency for you to finally get it, and so also for other people. So uphold your own boundaries, and while you uphold your own boundaries and you are demanding this respect from other people, I advise that you are also evolved enough to respect other people's boundaries. You cannot disrespect other people's boundaries and expect them to respect yours. It's not possible. Quite possible. Narcissists find a way to do that. Narcissists find a way to demand things that they're not willing to give. And sometimes they get away with it because there are a lot of broken people in this world. There are people with low self-esteem who are in desperate need for love and affection and are going to take it in broken places. So unfortunately, yeah. So if you take the time, and I think it's important for people to just take the time, spend time alone and evaluate, just look back on your journey, your footstep, and say, okay, what have I been doing? And you find that you've ever been in that position where you upheld other people's boundaries but they didn't uphold yours, that means there's something within yourself you need to fix. You need to fix it. And if those people, you finally communicate your boundaries to them and they don't choose to uphold it, I mean, I want to tell you what to do because it's not easy, but respect yourself. It's hard, especially when you value those people, you love them, and they're part of your life, but they're not respecting your boundaries, but they're demanding certain respect. Or even if they're not demanding anything, like if this is the place you are right now in your life and this is what you need, and they are not respecting it, at some point you're just going to have to Number 4 is let go of the guilt. A lot of people find it hard to communicate because they feel guilty that they're going to hurt other people's feelings. Like I mentioned before, I've felt that. I always feel that. I just like to not hurt people's feelings. Before I hurt you on purpose, it's really hard. I don't know how to do it. Even sometimes, even if I'm hurting, it takes a lot for me to actually switch and say, you know what, damn you, because I just don't know how to do it. But at some point, you're just going to have to let go of that guilt and let go of that attachment. And the truth is, sometimes when you let people go, it'll hurt you too, because there is a part of you that loved them. It's just the truth. So it'll hurt you too. But it's either you or them. Literally, it's between you or them. So choose, and if you choose them, that's okay. But you're going to have to live with that version of yourself. And when they finally walk away, I assure you that you will struggle to recognize yourself. Because once you don't have a wholesome identity by yourself, because you never set your boundaries and you never defined yourself, and you let people define you, and you took things that you weren't supposed to take, those people better stay with you forever. And you know people don't stay forever, right? So the day those people finally either walk away or something happens in life and they're no longer there, it's going to be really hard, because the version of you that exists is the version of you plus the version that they created for you. Losing people is never easy, but if you have established your own self in full, it is easier to move on than if you had to look for other people to complete you. Because now once they leave, you're incomplete. And it's at that point that you need to ask yourself questions like, maybe, who am I again? And that's where it leads to depression. You're having identity crisis. Been there. And stuff. So yeah, let go of the guilt. And last but not least, remember that you're not for everybody. Just know that I know peace. You're not for everybody. I'm not for everybody. You're not for everybody. There's nobody that is for everybody. There's no human being that everybody likes. Even Jesus Christ, who did, based on the accounts of the Bible, did not wrong anybody. People didn't still like him. In fact, some people that liked him at the beginning ended up shouting, "Crucify him." So you're not for everybody. Nobody is for everybody. So when people don't fit into your world anymore, just know that, okay, after all, I'm not for everybody. So that's it. Now, two things. This one's the bonus, basically. Two things to take note of when you start setting boundaries. Number one thing you need to know before you even start communicating, once you've defined the boundaries, is expect resistance. I mean, a lot of people fear change. I'm one of those people, but as much as I fear change, it doesn't mean that change will not still happen. It still happen. You just have anxiety before the change comes, but it will still happen. With or without your permission, life happens, and the world doesn't stop because you're hurting. Sometimes you're going to have to stop and let the world just go, because you can't. Like, you need to heal, else you're going to die along the way because your battery life is low. But the world is not going to stop because you're hurting. So because you've now realized you have boundaries, doesn't mean that just like that everybody be like, oh, Blessing has boundaries. Or now we just adjust. No. So just expect some resistance. Sometimes it's normal, and work with them and just try to understand this until it gets to a point where you're like, okay, you know what, this is now getting to not just the initial grab, but this is becoming toxic and it's not good for me, and this person clearly doesn't care about my boundaries or my feelings and the reason behind my boundaries. Then you can begin to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to reduce the amount of communication, and I'm going to take, just create. That's one thing I think you need to take note of. The second thing I think that you need to take note of is that it's not also going to be easy on you. Just because you have a strong resolve. Okay, let me give this an example. If you're in a relationship, there's no relationship that's 100% bad. Even toxic relationships, even relationships where there's physical abuse, and you wonder why is this person still there, it's because no relationship is 100% bad. Sometimes there's just 1% good, and that is what people hold on to. So because no relationship is absolutely bad, one thing you need to prepare for is you're going to miss that person. No matter how much, you're going to miss that person. So get used to it, because if you don't prepare your mind for the time that your brain begins to convince you that everything is fine, why are you making such a big deal out of it? Don't fix it if it's not broken. That's what happens when people break up sometimes, or when people, end things. Your brain, for some weird reason, begins to glorify that relationship and only remembers the good time. Like, your brain remembers the good time for free. You're going to have to go through through extra effort to remind your brain and yourself that, you know what, there are bad times. Because your brain is just going to be like, oh, remember that time he did this. So your brain begins to focus on that 10% that is good, or the 20 or the 30. So just know that you're going to miss them. And in that moment of weakness, don't run back and tell the person that, you see, this is my boundary that I created. Don't worry about it. I hereby diminish my boundary for you, because I've done it before. When you draw your line in the sand, and you're like, okay, this is it. Then the people are like, you know what, I can meet you halfway on this demand. And you go. Then a day passes, then 2 days pass, then you begin to miss the good about that relationship or that friendship. You want to go back for that good, even though you forgot about it bad. And I have done it. And one of my friends was like, you can't go behind your own back. Like, I was going behind my own back. So nobody was going behind my back. Nobody was deceiving me. But in moments of pain, because you feel the pain of missing those people, don't betray yourself, because that's what happens. I betrayed my own self because I said, this is what I want. And the person said, I wasn't going to give you. Then I came in and I said, you know what? I don't even want anymore. I want nothing. Just so don't do that. I know better now, but it's these experiences that, like, okay, if you don't speak to me respectfully, we don't have to communicate anymore. Then they disrespectfully speak to you. And after 2 days, you go and start talking to them. Now it's on. It's on. They can never ever uphold it again in life. Cause why? Because they know you'll be back. So choose yourself. Choose yourself. And I hope you enjoyed this interesting, I hope it was short, episode of Love and Life with Kamba on Kamba's World. Now please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Tell me what you think, and tell me if you've ever had to set boundaries before.